Excuse me. Welcome back. Let me get us to the page. Chapter 5 Adventure in the Night. When Ralph Mouse had mastered riding the motorcycle on the threadbare carpet, he went bumping over the roses on the less worn parts under the dresser and bedside table. That was fun, too. "Hey," whispered the boy, "come on out from under the bed where I can see you." Ralph shot out into the moonlight, where he stopped, sitting jauntily on the motorcycle with one foot resting on the floor. "Say," he said, "how about let me take her out in the hall? You know, just for a little spin to see how fast she'll go." "Promise you'll bring it back?" asked Keith. "Oh, Scout's honor," answered Ralph, who had picked up many expressions from kids who had stayed in room 215. "Okay, I'll tell you what," said Keith. "You can use it at night, and I'll use it in the daytime. I'll leave the door open an inch or so you can get in. That way you can ride it up down and down the hall at night." "Can I really?" This was more than Ralph had ever hoped for. "Where do you want me to park it when I come in?" Ralph asked. "Oh, someplace where the maid won't step on it," answered the boy. "That's easy. Under the bed. She practically never cleans under the bed." "Yeah, I know," agreed Keith. "I looked. There are a lot of dust mice back there." "Oh, please." Ralph was pained by that expression. "Oh, sorry. That's what my mother calls bunches of dusty fluff under the bed." "My mother doesn't," said Ralph. "Now, how about opening that door?" The boy put his hand on the doorknob. "You won't let anything happen to my motorcycle, will you?" he asked. "Aw, come on, Keith. You know I wouldn't let anything happen to a beauty like this," said Ralph. "See that you don't, and don't stay out too late." The boy opened the door and permitted Ralph to pop, 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 pop out into the dim light of the hall. Ralph had a scary feeling he was on the threshold of a great adventure. There were no beds or chairs for him to dart under in case of danger. The floor creaked. Someone was snoring in room 214 across the hall. Outside in the pine trees, an owl hooted, sending prickles of fear up Ralph's spine. Ralph controlled the trembling of his paws while he hesitated outside the door to consider the possibilities of the hall, which was carpeted down the center, leaving two smooth highways of bare floor on either side of the baseboard. It didn't take Ralph long to decide what to do. He picked up his tail, took a deep breath, bent low over the handlebars, flattened his ears, and sped down the straightaway as fast as the motorcycle would go. He could feel his whiskers swept back by the force of his speed. Oh, it was glorious! Ralph had never ventured so far from home before. The old wooden hotel, cooling in the night air, snapped and creaked, but Ralph was brave. He was riding a motorcycle. He passed room 213, ran out of breath, and let his momentum carry him past another noisy snorer in room 211, on down the hall to the elevator. The mysterious elevator that carried people to that wonderful place Ralph had heard so much about, the ground floor. When Ralph came to the stairs, he stopped to look down, knowing it was impossible to ride a motorcycle downstairs, and at the same time wishing he could see for himself the wonders that lay below. Sorry, I lost my page. He sniffed the air and could smell the strange foods he had heard about. Cinnamon buns with sticky frosting, turkey stuffing, and pancakes with maple syrup. A ray of moonlight from a window glinted on the glassy eye of a stuffed deer's head over the stair landing and scared Ralph, sending him off down the hall, past the broom closet and the linen room, to the end of the hall, where he executed a sharp turn, turned, and started back. Exhilarated by speed, Ralph raced up and down. Once, when he heard some people getting out of the elevator, he had to duck behind the curtain of the window at the end of the hall. Toward midnight, he passed by his Aunt Sissy, scurrying along the baseboard. He waved and nearly lost control of the motorcycle. Aunt Sissy stopped to stare while Ralph rode on, feeling pleased with himself, and at the same time feeling sorry for Aunt Sissy, poor frightened thing with only her feet to carry her from one crumb to the next. Up and down the hall raced Ralph until, after an especially noisy burst of speed outside room 211, he was startled to hear a dog bark inside the room. Now it was Ralph's turn to be frightened. Uh-oh, he thought. I'd better be careful. If there was one thing Ralph disliked, it was people who traveled with dogs. Dogs always sniffed around where they had no business sniffing. Once a dog had even barked into the mouse hole in room 215. It was days and days before Ralph's mom got over that. Ralph heard someone moving around inside room 211, and looking back over his shoulder, he saw the door open and a tousled-haired man in a bathrobe and slippers appeared carrying a small terrier dog. The man looked angry and sleepy as he started down the hall toward the elevator with his dog. O.M.G. He was walking straight toward Ralph. Ralph realized he was taking a chance. Ralph speeded up the motorcycle. If he turned and headed back to room 215, he'd have to go past the man. It was better to continue toward the elevator than hope he'd find a place to hide. He raced down the hall. The wild barks of the little terrier told him that he had been seen by the dog, if not by the man. "Ah, be quiet," muttered the man to his dog sleepily. "Taking you for a walk. You don't have to wake up the whole hotel in the middle of the night." Ralph reached the elevator, where he drove around behind the ashtray on a stand beside the door. He stopped and waited, tense and frightened. Outside again, an owl hooted, was silent, and hooted again. A sudden breeze rattled windows and banged the door. Ralph's teeth began to chatter. The dog whimpered, but the man walked straight past Ralph, pushed a button, and in a moment stepped into the elevator. "Whew," thought Ralph, when the elevator door had closed on the sleepy man and his barky dog. Oh, maybe he'd better lie low for a while. In a few minutes, the elevator came back to the second floor. As the man stepped out, the little dog looked over his shoulder and saw Ralph parked behind the ashtray stand. Because the dog was a captive and he was free, Ralph could not resist sticking out his tongue and waggling his paws in his ears, a gesture he had learned from kids in room 215, and he knew was sure to make the dog angry. "Let me at him! Let me at him!" barked the little dog. "Ah, cut it out," grumbled the man, fumbling for the doorknob of room 211, while Ralph, a daredevil now, rode in a giddy circle around the ashtray stand. He had a feeling of cockiness he had never known before. Ha! Who said mice were timid? When the morning song of the birds in the pine trees grew louder than the snores of the guests, and the dawn light slipped through the window at the end of the hall, Ralph knew it was time to return to room 215. But there he was shocked to discover the door was shut. Only then did he remember the draft in the night and the slam of a door. He got off the motorcycle and pounded on the door with his fist. But what sleeping boy could hear a mouse banging on a door? And I am going to stop there, and we'll do the next part of this chapter right away.